We're going live. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bitcoin Business Bureau. And as he flies in, there's Divi Daddy. So we're going to be looking. Let's see. I got to get the comments up here. The banner going. We're going to have good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody here. We got Corey. We got Johnny. We got John. We got two Johns. So we're going to be talking a little bit about how things are going. And obviously, we talk about this event a little bit too. But this is an AMA. You can ask us whatever. I know Patrick's got a lot to share that he wants to talk about. We got to talk a little bit about Ethereum Merge. Talk a little bit about the Dixie and the dollar and the Dow and a whole bunch of stuff. So, Patrick, I'm going to give the floor to you, and I'm just going to steer, and you tell me what you want us to put on the screen, and I'll help you out, and you just go for it while we get some questions. If you have questions, please put it in the chat. We'll get to them as soon as we get done here with Patrick for a few minutes.
This has been like a really big week, right? So first of all, I have a buddy that, this is Bring a Friend night, so I got some friends in the audience here. The question on everyone's mind is like, where is Bitcoin going? Is this a good time to buy? And we're going to get there, but I want to talk a lot about some of the conditions that led us up into this, right? So, Jeff, let's bring up the one for CPI we were talking about. And when we realized the CPI numbers came out this week. So I want to be very clear about this. So the CPI numbers, as we're looking at them now, are a measure of where we were a year ago, okay? So a year ago at this time is what we're measuring against. The thing is, a year ago at this time, we have already been seeing tons of inflation. And if you actually take a look at the metrics on there, it'll show you that our inflation numbers probably peaked already a while ago, the true inflation numbers. And you see yesterday CPI comes out and we get a terrible market, right? Because we know it's related to, and we'll talk about this, the Dixie, because the Dixie is a huge problem right now. A lot of people don't know what the Dixie is. So I'd like, Jeff, why don't you talk a little bit about the Dixie, figure out what you want to say in terms of how the Dixie correlates to the CPI. Because for me, when they talk about CPI, the DXY obviously has a correlation, right? So this is the value of the dollar. And now they're saying, hey, the dollar is, you guys want to hear it? It's strong. The dollar is strong.
Yeah, the dollar is strong compared to what is really, and the Dixie, I'm trying to get a better view of this.
Dixie is just a measurement of the dollar against another basket of currencies, usually the euro, British pound, the yen. So what we're looking at, though, honestly, is the dollar is just the best smelling turd in the pot. That's all it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a better, while we're talking, I'm gonna get a better view of the Dixie chart. But yeah, the dollar, the Dixie is just, and it's an index, and it's the dollar compared to all the other major fiats out there, and a big component of it is the euro. So as the euro is having issues, it's got here. Finally, I got a good chart. All right, so let me share my screen again. There we go. So let's see, that is about a year, and you can see it's going up, and let's go the big picture. So the Dixie has not been this high since back in 2002, and this is the dollar compared to everything else. So you're looking at the dollar compared to the euro, the Japanese yen, the Chinese yuan, that sort of thing. So right now, the dollar is strong against everything else because people have to go get dollars to pay back things in dollar form. But it's kind of a false index because it doesn't tell you the entire. It was built it compares everything to the other currencies that are out there, but there are other countries going outside of that currency system. Because look what Russia's doing. Look what Iran's doing. Talked about that again today. Iran both those countries are facing sanctions through the SWIFT system. That's how they get implemented. So they can't get into the dollar system. So they're finding other ways. Thanks to Bitcoin, they are able to get out of that system and move into other directions. And they could sell oil, or they could sell liquid natural gas, whatever, for Bitcoin, and trade that almost universally throughout other countries and get around the sanctions that are in the dollar-based SWIFT system.
Yeah, the petrodollar is dead, right? Yeah. Essentially, that's what we're talking about, because they're no longer executing oil contracts in the dollar.
Right. There's in the dollar, everybody talks about the SWIFT system, but the dollar is actually less used than the euro within the SWIFT system, and there's more commerce, there's more international settlements outside of the SWIFT system than inside the SWIFT system. This is why I talk a lot about my channel. We talk about BRICS, we talk about Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, all these countries, and now we have Iran and other countries looking to join the BRICS nations. They're huge. Like when they get all together, it's almost as large as the U.S., if not bigger. So it's pretty significant in a global economy. So that's why, like I said, as Rio goes and they adopted Bitcoin, Brazil follows, and the rest of South America, and it just cascades. So we saw that El Salvador. It's only been a year that El Salvador's had that the Bitcoin is the national currency. 44 other countries were interested. We know that Central African Republic already adopted it. Bitcoin.
You know what the central bank did today? Just announced today. The central bank of like one of the richest countries in the world, Bahrain. The central bank of Bahrain is now buying Bitcoin. Why are the banks buying Bitcoin? I thought Bitcoin was bad. Why do they want our Bitcoin? Why do they want my Bitcoin? Right? You guys are asking where the price is going. Well, here's what's happening. You're seeing it in silver markets too. The price of silver is going down. Why? Because the dollar is strong. No, it's because the euro is one of the heaviest pieces of the Dixie measurement index, and the dollar is measured heavily against the euro. So when the euro takes a tank, the dollar goes up in value. So it takes less dollars to buy that same amount of silver. It's all about manipulation here, guys. So don't get fooled, because the only person getting fooled here, if you're not buying Bitcoin, is you. Stop assuming that you're going to have an opportunity to buy Bitcoin later. And I'm talking to some of my friends out there. Stop assuming that you're going to have an opportunity to buy Bitcoin later, because you're not. The only person that you're making an ass out of is yourself, because the reality is the people who are making Bitcoin, we don't want to sell it to you. We aren't giving up our Bitcoin. You assume there's 900 Bitcoin a day being made. Guess what? You're not going to see it hit the market.
Yeah, we talked about CPI came out and it wasn't quite what we expected. I think it came out, I think it was yesterday, and it's this. I mean, it's announced. I know where I should. Shadow Stats. Let me open up Shadow Stats.
I gotta say a shout out real quick. Crypto Nana's in the house. Hi, Nana.
Nice.
I love her.
Yeah, John Williams' site is about Shadow Stats, and he'll talk. Of course, I got it wrong. All right. Well, I find that site you can look at. Here's the CPI index. It's obviously going 8 the last couple of years, and they're reporting it as in the the 8% range. They're trying to keep it under 10% as long as they can, and they will do. There's only one more report before the midterm elections, so that's what they're going to be able to pull off. So it won't go over 10% and the numbers are completely garbage. The CPI is just the way that they construct it. Like a quarter of it. I don't know why I can't get Shadow Stats up, but anyway, they report CPI. A quarter of CPI is housing, and it's a complete farce is what they're actually reporting as far as what housing looks like. So,
rent. They pick a whole portion of it is just in rent. So if you look at rent alone in this last year, it's gone up. Not only has it gone up a lot, but you guys can tell me. Do you think that your rent has only gone up 8%? Right? The way that they measure the CPI is completely frivolous. They always change the weighting of what's in there. One month it'll be oranges, the next month it'll be eggs. It doesn't really have any consistency. The CPI numbers suck. What really, if you want a better measurement, I would be looking at stuff like Trueflation.com, right? Go to Trueflation, and that'll show you where accurate real inflation is, more accurately than what they're saying, and it'll also show you where we probably peaked. So for me, it's all about understanding where the real math is coming from. If you start thinking that our inflation is going down, no, what happened is we're leveling out from the ridiculous inflation that has already happened, and we're still hemorrhaging. It doesn't feel like your milk has gone down.
Yeah, here's the image, and again, it's Trueflation.com. It's a good site. You can look at a lot of different indexes, and the other one that I like to look at is Shadow Stats from John Williams. And the blue line, I'm very familiar with this chart. The orange line is basically the official CPI. The blue line, which is off the charts, is if you calculated CPI the old way before they monkeyed with the numbers back in the 80s, and you can just see the craziness that's happened. Since it was about the same back in up until 82. They changed it in the early 80s. And it started to diverge quickly, much like they changed who's in the Dow Industrial Average every so often. They change things, but they tell you it's the same thing, but it's not. It's like Like they sell you a box of cookies, but there's not as many cookies as there used to be. It's like it sell you at the same price. Or like they used to sell a box of 4 ice cream bars, but now there's only 3 inside. That's what the shrinkflation is real. Inflation is real. This is the kind of things that they'll just monkey with you. And the economy that it's everybody gets impacted by the economy. It's the one thing we can all agree on because we all have to eat, we all have to get gas, all those sorts of things. We all experience it and we see it firsthand. And we were just talking on, I don't know if he stopped by yet, but we were just talking on another channel. It was Debate Crypto with the Crypto Keeper. And we were talking about the rail station and the rail strike. And we can talk about that in a bit, but there's lots. We're not at a loss for words. We're not at a loss for topics to talk about. But I would be remiss if we didn't start taking a question or two. Patrick, do you have anything to wrap up before I start?
No, let's get through some questions. We could talk more later. There's just so much more to talk about. But follow us on Instagram and Twitter and ask us any questions you'd like if we don't cover it tonight.
Yeah. So let's see. So John had a question. Let's see. Opinions anybody on cold storage wallet? Easy for me to say. Arculus? I don't know that one. Do you know, Patrick?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Arculus. Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about it. So I would consider Arculus up there. Jeff, it's very similar to the BitPay wallet.
Okay.
Looks like a credit card looking device. Very similar to like a 2-factor authentication type device, like a Tracer or Ledger. So for me, yeah, Arculus works fine. The one thing that I would always tell everyone who's out there asking about this stuff is just don't ever post it on places like this. Don't let people know what you have, because that's just one more piece of the puzzle that they don't have to put together. So Arculus is fine, but I highly recommend people look at Litecoin Leader's video. Jeff did an amazing video. Put a description later, Jeff, or tag it somewhere. But there's a video about the cell phone one, right?
It's Joanna put it on the very front page of litecoinleader.com. You can't miss
it.
So
that's what I would suggest, because basically you don't care about the device itself. Every device, whether it's a Ledger or a Tracer, an Arculus, a BitFi, whatever wallet you can think of, is just an interface with the blockchain. It's just a tool to interface with the blockchain. Your private seed words is what it protects. So to me, what you're really protecting is your private seed words. And if you can guarantee you could keep 12 words safe, then I would say there's no reason you couldn't use a cell phone over an Arculus or any other device. And it's $100 for a crappy Motorola iPhone. It's the only reason I'd buy an Android.
And yeah, great answer. So that's it. Look at another one here. So here's a question from Johnny Holder. It's like, why do they burn coins that have an infinite amount of coins? Example, Shiba. Well, first off, Shiba does not have an infinite amount of coins. Shiba actually has a finite number. They burned, I think, 40% when they gave some to Vitalik from Ethereum, and like they immediately got burnt. So, but they burn coins that have a finite amount, and that's a deflationary nature. They try to reduce the population of the coins to create more value for the project. So you double check whether it's really that they're burning coins that are in an infinite. There aren't many projects that have infinite amount of coins. Usually there's tokenomics in a white paper. If they don't, you want to investigate that as to why they don't.
For those of you who are new and don't know what burning is, think of it like a stock splitting, but in reverse.
Yeah, they're just destroying coins. So just like, take it, just imagine that there's a million coins, and every time there's a transaction, you take a little percentage out and destroy it. So eventually you wind up with less and less and less and less. Yeah. And now some coins so Ethereum, when they started moving towards the merge, and we'll talk about the merge in a little bit, but one of the things that they did recently was they, instead of paying the miners as much, they would take some of the Ethereum and destroy some of the Ethereum for the transactions. Eventually, what they want to get to the point, and this merge may lead to that, where they're destroying more than they're creating, so it's deflationary in nature. All right, good question though. All right, let's see what Tim has to say here. I want to read ahead. I realize it's not financial advice. We never provide financial advice. It's educational purposes only. We're just talking.
And comedic relief.
Yeah, there we go. We need that too. We definitely need that. But if you were dollar cost averaging and purchasing crypto on a daily basis, what coins would you most likely to be invested in? Well, there's Bitcoin, there's Divi, and We do like with some, like, I'm not going to provide financial advice, but I know that one of the people that we listen to a lot, which is George over at Cryptos RS, he has a philosophy of some Bitcoin, some altcoins, and some cash. I think he does 50, 25, 25 percentage wise. But as far as what other coins I'd be interested in, I mean, last year I did Altcoinopoly and I talked about a lot of coins, but I tend to like projects that are layer ones, which means they have their own blockchain and other things can be built on top of it, because then you get exposure to a wide berth of the environment for a few coins. So for example, we'll take Ethereum. I'm not a big fan of Ethereum. Let's just take it as an example. If you were to buy Ethereum, you have exposure to thousands of coins that use the Ethereum blockchain. But if you buy Chainlink, you only are exposed to Chainlink, but you're also exposed to Ethereum as well, because it's tied to working. You need Ethereum to work right. So if you buy a project, an ERC20 project or an NFT project that runs on Ethereum, you have exposure to Ethereum because that's the blockchain you're using, but you're also you only it's kind of like owning one app in the App Store versus owning the entire App Store. I prefer to own the big boys, and I want to have, like, you name a top 100 project that's got its own blockchain, and we could rattle several of them off, like Zilliqa, Theta, Matic, Polkadot, Cardano, Litecoin, you name, like, these coins, Cosmos or Atom, all these coins can be built on, like, I'm sure I'm missing a few, but these are layer ones. I'm not a big fan of Solana because it's a bit too centralized and you can turn the network on and off. That's never a good thing. But these are kind of things you look at, and if you can figure out, like, well, there's, like, I don't even know how many there are today. It's probably at least 18,000 coins last I checked. But if you don't need to be in all of them. Like, you pick out 10 or 20 good ones, if that. I mean, you don't necessarily need to be that number, but pick out a half dozen coins that are layer ones, that have good exposure, good growth, top 100. It narrows it down very quickly, and you still have pretty wide exposure. Like, Cardano is going to have hundreds of projects. Polkadot's same thing. Cosmos, same thing. Zilliqa, same thing. Anyone has, like, an ecosystem or their own universe. Theta, that's a great way to,
guys, right? A use case. Look for use case. VeChain, right? VeChain's another one. They're paying their developers money to be able to develop on their network. So, and definitely going to be huge players in supply chain. So if you haven't looked into them, also look into them. There's just so many great opportunities out there. But I guess we're going to get back to the question of, on a daily basis, if I was going to invest, here's how I do it. And I'll give you my recipe. If I were going to have money to spend every day, this is what I do right now. I would wait, first a little bit for some of the harder days that are coming. And as soon as that hits, I would deploy my capital like this: 50% Bitcoin. I would do 25% in altcoins and 25% in silver. Because what's going to happen is the crash is going to affect the dollar, which is going to make everything feel like, hey, the dollar is great. They're going to keep spending money, pumping money, printing money. We know the game. That's the name of the game right there, some silver. You look at that. That's the only thing with a dollar value that I'd like to buy. Other than that, I'm pretty much not in the fiat system. So for me, it's 50% Bitcoin, 25% would be diversified into, my favorite altcoin portfolio. And then I'd probably hold, kind of keep an average of about 25% cash or cash-like assets, such as guns, ammo, silver, gold, and very, very rarely is it actual cash, but things that are cash-like with a cash value, because, there is merit to the question someone asked earlier in the first show, which is what happens if everything dies and there's no internet, there's no electricity, and that's not part of our life anymore. They're like real preppers, right? So the answer is, well, good thing you have 25% of that in silver and guns and ammo, because that's what else will be valuable. Come learn about that at Economic Preppers if you want to learn more about my balancing and the way I do it. But that's definitely one way I like to keep it going, is you diversify daily. If you want to DCA daily, 50% BTC, 25% alts.
Yeah, and you can look at my YouTube channel. I did a video within the last month or so where this is a common question I get. We both get this a lot. Like, we don't want to be in this thing, but we talk about crypto and we talk about silver. And I can't hold up a Bitcoin right now, but you get the idea. It's on the logo right there. There's one right there on Patrick's covered. But the video is called Cash, Coins, Crypto, because you want to have exposure to all three, and we have no idea how it's going to play out and which one's going to be most necessary if things change. If the banks close and you can't get cash, people are going to resort to using cash because 90% of the universe, or if not more, use cash right now. They'll accept cash. But when that runs out, silver, coins.
I got like this new TV in my office set up, right? And since this is friends and family night, I brought some friends over, and I keep looking over at the corner where the TV is. It's so weird to see myself on like big screen. This is not this is not something I'm used to yet.
Yeah. And I want to thank everybody for dropping by. It's good attendance. I really appreciate it. Let's get a couple other questions in here. But yeah, cash, coins, crypto. You don't know when and where you're going to need each one, but having diversity across all three of those and getting rid of those green piece of paper which are losing value. Probably not financial advice, but you could probably see which ones we favor. So for the Divi Daddy, are there any further updates on Divi usage?
I mean,
that you can say.
Yeah. So we know that there is, a lot of deals in play, but I wouldn't say that there's anything been announced lately after the roadmap. So I would suggest that you listen to the Twitter Spaces. It's going to be happening this Friday, and ask Nick questions. If you want to, you can listen to the Twitter Spaces that happened also on YouTube. But in terms of like utility and use cases, we haven't really seen any announcements come out yet.
Yeah, but I think that is, as this is just me speculating. I can speculate because I'm not exposed to what Patrick is, and he's got, he can't say certain things.
So I can't say certain things, guys. Sorry.
Correct.
I love Divi. I am a Divi daddy. Divi is a portion of my portfolio, but Bitcoin's definitely my name of my game.
Yeah, and I think that I like to play What If. We just played What If over on the other channel on let's see, it was Debate Crypto, and that's a great channel. And they us if you want to know more about their projects that are going on, it's a dangerclosealpha.com. Definitely give them a shout out for that, but follow them as well. But I could speculate with What If. I mean, like Divi is closely tied to La Liga. We already know that. That's like 1A to the Premier League's 1B as far as viewership around the world. The World Cup is in November. All right, we're only a few months away from that too. November 21st is the start. So, and I know that there's a lot of things happening in Dubai, and there's a metaverse thing that's happening this week. Theta was talking about that. Nick moved to Dubai. Dubai is becoming the capital of the planet for crypto, and I'm going to be probably making another video about Dubai coming up soon. But I mean, and I love saying Dubai the dip. I think that's like, I need to make that shirt. But Dubai is a big deal, and we'll see what comes from Divi. Divi having ties there and being there with a lot of things going on. It's probably not a bad place for them to be. So, all right. See what? Let's see. Nana asked Uncle Cliff's old Alta report said silver will run first. Do you agree? Well, depends on what you mean by run. I think that if cash runs out, silver will be like it's. We know that silver is big. Patrick was at a silver symposium a couple weeks ago, and we know that the supply of silver is going down. Mining efforts are going down because it's just not been profitable because gold is going down because a lot of places you don't.
They're not mining right now because, like, think about what's happening in China right now. We forget about that. But, shout out to Nobody Special Finance, Jack. He talks about what's happening in China, and I won't go into that very much, but because he's not allowed in China, and I'd like to go to China. So I'm not going to say anything right now that'll get me banned from YouTube or China, but I do want to say that what I know that's happening is they're not building anymore. So without building, if we're not building right now, you don't need steel, you don't need copper, and that's how most silver is mined, is as a derivative or a byproduct of the other stuff you're mining for. There are very few silver-only mines.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about copper as well, and I think Economic Ninja had another guy on for copper. It's a huge growth commodity right now, and there's definitely a need for it. So as far as silver running, I think silver will run. It'll be probably one of those desirable precious metals because it's got lots of utility. I mean, you can't make a phone without silver. You can't make any electronic devices really without silver. There's a lot of utility for it. This grows more and more, and it's harder to get right now. So I think it will run because the demand will outstrip supply. All right. John asks, thoughts on Bitcoin's bottom? And I think I talked about that a little today with the power. But Patrick, this is right up your alley. So how about you share your thoughts?
Okay, guys. So you guys want to know what I really believe is going to happen? As an ex-miner, this is what I believe. We have seen every time that Bitcoin runs around, and there are some major indicators that we see that I expect before Bitcoin, I would claim, has hit bottom. The first one would be the price of Bitcoin usually falls below the price it costs to mine Bitcoin on average, right? So what we were thinking is Bitcoin should be falling to about $12,000 to $14,000 because that's about where it takes us for cost of power and cost of resources to mine Bitcoin. Bitcoin hasn't hit 12 to 14,000 and it hasn't hit 10 to 12,000 yet. But here's the thing that I believe is going to skew that. The energy prices have gone up significantly in the last year. And this is skewing the data. And we need to account for that because even right now, all around the world, I have miners hosted. And I can tell you that the prices are going up about 20% year over year. From the last year, I'm paying almost 20% more for power. So I would suspect that on average, you're going to start seeing the price go up 20% or so for what the cost of mining Bitcoin is. I believe the low area is going to be somewhere in between the 14 to 16 range, give or take, but right around there is what I'm expecting. Secondly, the other thing that we haven't seen happen is the hash rate starts to drop. We haven't seen the hash rate dropping yet. And of course, this makes sense, right? Because if we're turning off miners because it's not profitable to mine, the hash rate goes down. We haven't seen that yet. The third we see, and I'm always waiting for this, is Bitmain. Bitmain releases their new generation of miners, which then everyone starts spending their Bitcoin and utilizing the transactions. So what we see is Bitcoin outflowing to buy miners about 3 months or 2 months before the hash rate starts to go up. And that usually correlates with about a year and a half before the halvening. So if I were going to give my guess, right, my comedic relief guess, I would say that this is not financial advice, but I'm expecting somewhere in between November and December to be the bottom of that drop, right? Somewhere in between November, December, and August, somewhere in between there. So I believe between the beginning of this year, or end of this year, and the middle of 2023. But I suspect that by August, we'll be running up by this summer. And everything that I'm seeing says BTC should be hundreds of thousands of dollars right now. I mean, we have so much Bitcoin mined right now that you guys know that by 2032, there's only going to be 1% of the Bitcoin left to mine.
Yeah.
That's only 10 years from now. And what we have mined up to now, there's not very much left. You guys are competing for the scraps left on the table. That's all. So right now, the fact that the banks are buying Bitcoin should scare the shit out of you guys.
Yeah, we're almost at 20 million out of 21 million created. So we're basically down the last 5%.
Well, and don't forget the people that just had no idea what we were doing in the beginning, right? And it was just tech. People like Papa Joe, who lost thousands of Bitcoin, just playing around, sending it to people because he was trying to learn the utility. So I think that there's so much lost in hard drives and so much lost because people lost their seed phrase or whatnot, that you got to already take a little bit of that out. And don't forget, over 80% of the Bitcoin hasn't moved in the past year.
Yeah, and it's not just Bitcoin. I mean, eventually, the writing's on the wall that the current financial system is crumbling. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to happen. And then crypto and other blockchain type answers is pretty much crypto and the precious metals. They have to absorb all that value if we're going to be moving towards a blockchain. So right now we're at $1 trillion for Bitcoin, or excuse me, all of crypto. And $1 trillion is a tenth of the gold market, which is like a tenth or like 100th of the entire market. It's what I'm saying is crypto is tiny right now. When if more and more of the financial system moves towards blockchain answers, not talking about CBDCs, we'll deal with that nightmare in conversation later on. We'll talk about that in Texas too. But if Bitcoin is going to be, let's just say it's a 25% of the future crypto market. Could be bigger, could be smaller. If it's 25%, and then crypto goes to $100 trillion market, I mean, you're talking like Bitcoin will 20x, but other coins will 50 to 100x easily because it has to absorb so much value from the rest of this economy. It's going to make your head spin. So I get the value for Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is there, and It's going to be dominant for a long time because the other countries are adopting it. It's a major trading pair. It's going to be the leader in the clubhouse for many years, just like Ethereum has been the #1 smart contract blockchain for a while. Unless they break it tonight or tomorrow, which could happen, and that create a black swan event, that would make the other layer ones really more valuable. But all of them, most likely in the long run, are going to be way more valuable than they are today because just the basic economics. They have to absorb all that wealth from the value from the currency systems that are dying right now. John says, is 90% of BTC locked up by whales? Give or take. I mean, maybe not quite that high.
Yeah, I don't think it's that high.
Yeah, I mean, like I would say depends. Well, first off, you have to define 90% of what? Of the available Bitcoin, the Bitcoin that we know exists. Because I would say at least 10% has been lost, probably more. I would say probably like 20% of Bitcoin has been lost, which would be about 3 to 4 million of the 20 million Bitcoin. That's probably the good estimates that I've seen. So you have like, let's just say 2 million's been lost. And we have like what 78% hasn't moved for a while, or 80% has moved for a while of what we know. So that's like, even if you said they were all whales, which they aren't, it's not as dramatic as you think of it. I would say probably
there's like very few people actually are whole coiners, right? So like there's not enough Bitcoin out there for even every millionaire to have one. So at the end of the day, like if you are a 1 Bitcoin holder, you're like, I want to say the statistics are like you're in the top like 20% of all Bitcoin holders. And if you're if you own 10 Bitcoin, I think you're in the top 70 something percent, right? So like to have 10 Bitcoin is a pretty big deal. But when we talk whales, we're talking like top 50 wallets, and that's nothing near that. So I want to say like when you're talking like OG whales, I would include some of the big mining facilities where they are keeping 100% of the Bitcoin locked up that is being produced right now.
Yeah, based on the numbers I found while we're looking at from Glassnode, whales, which own about up to almost 9 million Bitcoin, own just under 50%, 46% of Bitcoin's total supply. So that's much more, I think, more appropriate there. Let's see. And that's Patrick, we're about halfway through. You want to talk about the Ethereum, the event that could be happening tonight and the impact? I'll bring up that screen.
I would. Jeff, bring up the Google link. The Google link is so cute. If you guys haven't seen it, there's like 2 little panda bears running towards each other, hugging each other, and we're roughly about 6 hours out is what they're saying from the block height where we're supposed to reach. So maybe it's even less now. I think it's like about midnight my time. So it'd be very fun to see this happen in real life. And I never thought this day would come. I'm still not sure that it's coming. I mean, I really don't know. Do you think it's actually going to happen is the question.
I think they're going to attempt it.
Yeah, but what if it's like not successful? They were testing code up to what, 2 weeks ago? Like what developer does that? I'm just ready for something to happen. And I know, you know, I think Crypto Nana said like 5 or different coins, other blockchains that stand to profit. You made some videos off of it. Like you have got to be cautioned here that it is possible that this is not going to be good. I'm not saying that it's not going to be good. Like the best case scenario is that nothing happens.
Yeah, that's the best case scenario. Is that and just because if it goes smoothly, and it goes smoothly tonight and maybe even tomorrow, it doesn't mean it's over. I mean, there could be gaps in the code. There could be bugs in the code or things that people will find and exploit that could just wreck Ethereum. I'm not saying that they exist, but it scared the heck out of me when I saw that they were still adding things to the code a couple weeks before the merge date. You don't want to do that with something this large that holds a large amount of people's wealth, and you're just monkeying with the code in the last few weeks. And you need to do this properly. What you need, you have a whole test plan to make sure, like okay, code freeze, right? You're not going to change the code anymore unless you find something critically bad and you need to go and fix something. Then you start over. But you want a clean run of the entire system test plan. That should take about a month to do it right, because there's so much that needs to be done. Some of it's automated, but some of it is a guy has to go in there, or a lady has to go and do something and make sure that something doesn't get broken. but the EVM may get broken, the blockchain may get broken, NFTs may not work for some reason, and then this is the exact black swan event I've been mentioning on in a what if video I did that if this has never been done before. People have to realize no one's ever moved from proof of work to proof of stake. This is part of the reason why it's taken so long to get here, but we're crossing our fingers and we're hoping. I don't want to see it happen. I don't think anybody wants to see it happen, but I think you're fooling yourself.
Ethereum hodlers want to see it happen, right? Because the hodlers who just kept buying Ethereum, they want to see it happen because they're going to be able to capitalize on all the Ethereum that they have sitting around that are validating all these transactions and confirming them. But what's going to suck is for all these miners, and they're going to be pissed, right? Because now they're moving, and you've already seen the hash rate dropping significantly, because that's what happens, right? For those of you that don't know, what happens is the ETH bomb, it's like a bomb that happens. The reason they call it that is it's a difficulty bomb. And once it gets to a certain level of difficulty, as you're seeing there, where it says merge difficulty, that's where we know it's like so expensive. People are just going to start shutting miners off. And that's when the hash rate, it just balances out. So could it go a little bit further? Yeah, you might still have people running miners, but the consensus will be switched over at that point, and they will be shutting off miners because they'll start mining, Ethereum Classic or Ravencoin or something else that I don't know why you'd mine Ether in the first place, right? But that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, and the difficulty bomb, and like people are mixing up that it's a bad thing, but it's meant to time people out and to say it's not profitable anymore, move over. That's why normally when you have a new code release or something gets a certain block event, but this is I actually like the approach of making it harder for them than pushing people off and saying you can still mine Ethereum, but you're losing money every time you donate. So that's going to happen pretty quickly. But I think we all have our fingers crossed. We don't want to see a black swan. But I think you'd be foolish if you think it's not a possibility. So that's why I wanted to at least throw that out there. The only thing
I'm saying is, man, I really hope that these Ethereum miners are prepared to take on the work again if it doesn't work.
Yeah, and
I don't know what their reverse plan would be, which again scares the poop out of me. I just think Ether is too high risk right now. That's my personal opinion. But, you're asking a Bitcoin maximalist what he thinks of Ether.
Yeah, and I can't find the post right now, but I know that the next question, let me go back to our double shot here. Somebody asked, I think it was John, what event or events will decouple Bitcoin from NASDAQ? And if you're not following me on Instagram or Patrick at Divi Daddy or Dylan Bradley's on there too. I mean, Dylan had a nice share today about they're still coupled. You saw that gold, silver, Bitcoin, they all dropped at the same time. Well, part of what happens is that when something is released, like they released the CPI and everything just tanked, that's because the bots just trade based on the algorithm. So if one moves, they all move, and they're just programmed to be synchronized. That will be that way. And then eventually the market forces take over after a few hours. But they will be synchronized and they will be coupled together as long as Bitcoin is viewed as another tech stock. Until the world and the financial world in particular see that it's a utility for something different, that or something, or if XRP is used for a CBDC, or if Bitcoin is used for international trade, not the dollar, or things starting to get priced in Bitcoin. If you see, Bitcoin and gold and silver are starting to be a little bit more interchangeable. We're starting to see that. But if you see other commodities being priced in Bitcoin, that will cause a lot of people to take notice and say, whoa, I need to consider Bitcoin a little bit differently than just another tech stock like Tesla or Apple. All right. Great question though. Let's see. Isn't 17.5 close enough to 16K? Yeah, you could. So this is the argument I wanted to make because Patrick was no, what I'm saying is this. So let me just say that you're saying it's going to dip again and hit 16. I get that. But what I'm about to say, and I agree with you at some point between now and next August, sure, the bottom will be in. But what I'm saying is that, not financial advice, but if you're looking at from just an expectation value and buying Bitcoin at the present value today, around 20, 21, whatever it is today, the downside is maybe 30%, maybe 35%. The upside is significantly higher. So based on that, an educated investor would say, with those conditions, of saying I might lose 30% short term, but long term I'm going to make well over 30%. Then the gamble you're getting of buying it now versus trying to wait and getting that extra percent of buying that dip, I wouldn't worry about trying to buy the dip. I would be dollar cost averaging at worst, or just buy it now. But if you really think it's going to not get below that 16K floor, you can make an argument. It's just like, go ahead. It's close enough, because it could go on a bull run at any time. You don't know.
Yeah. Like, this is totally not financial advice, but I guess to answer your question fairly, is 17.5 close enough to 16K? Yeah, it is. It wouldn't surprise me if the floor is 17.5 and it never goes below 17, right? Like, that would not surprise me. But as I said earlier, there are just so many other indicators that haven't happened yet that I knew. Like, there was no doubt in my mind. And I could tell you back then, and here I am saying the proof, because I said it back then too. Guys, 17.5, this is not the last time we're going to be around here. Don't worry. And when everyone saw 22, I said, guys, this is not the end. You need to wait. It's going to correct. There's always drops below the 200-day moving average. And that's what we're seeing right now. If you want to see a breakout, here's my number to keep an eye for. Technical analysis says look for around 24.5 to 26. TA says that's when you're going to break out of the trend. But really, zoom out a little bit, guys. We're not seeing a huge pump from 18 or 19 to 22. We need to break out of 24 to 25 to 26 before we start seeing something that says we're out of bear season. But I wouldn't even start thinking that until we break 24, 25, 26. But with that said, Jeff, you're right. You can't time the market. Like, most people will lose. So again, I wouldn't follow his advice because it's not advice. So just enjoy what he said and use it to make your own strategies and questions. But I would agree. I would be buying. I've never stopped buying Bitcoin. I'm never going to stop buying Bitcoin. Every time I make money, 50% goes into Bitcoin, 25% goes into altcoins, and 25% goes into guns, ammo, or silver.
And just to close out the topic, I agree. You can't time this market. You just can't. But if you look at the rainbow price chart for Bitcoin, when it gets in the blue zone, they're basically saying it's a fire sale based on historic performance and general trends. Can it dip below the blue? Absolutely. It can also go above the red. But generally speaking, based on this indicator, and there's lots of other indicators out there, it's probably not a bad idea to consider getting in at these levels. Not financial advice.
No, it's just a historical analysis will tell us. And not only that, but go back to that chart, Jeff. Look at the rainbow chart. And if it were to hit the red again, like it did before in the other Bitcoin cycles, right? Where does it hit for us if we're looking at, let's say, the next couple of years? Let's say I'm right and I say, hey, 2023, right around there, 2024, I think is when we're going to see a bump. Where are we at?
We're looking at almost 500,000 at the next halving.
So we're going to be on our way there, guys. Like, that's what Jeff's saying is, will you really be worried if you bought at 20 or 21 when it's 500,000?
Yeah.
You're just going to be happy you bought, because I'm telling you guys, the one mistake that you're making is you're assuming that you're going to have the opportunity to buy it. And that's what Jeff says, slowly, then suddenly. When they realize, wait a sec, the silver that we say is really there on paper is not really there. Oh my gosh, here's what we really have. Well, then Cliff's going to be like, probably right? Silver's going to shoot up. The value of physical silver is going to be ridiculous. And then what are they going to say? Oh my gosh, what about Bitcoin? And what about Bitcoin? When someone asks that and realizes that Bitcoin has intrinsic value that no other asset class has ever had before, that's when the fire lights. And we have not reached the adoption yet. We're still at the phase where people say, why would you order stuff on the online and put in your information? They're going to take all your money. Who is going to ever buy something online? Yeah. Now Amazon has trucks.
Yeah, adoption is coming. It's clear. I mean, when banks are getting, look at what Cardano Anna put in here. Like, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, and others are planning their own crypto.
Let's bring that up. The one I just showed you, I sent you a link about that. They're creating their own exchange called the EDX exchange. She is totally right. Holy gosh. How great one, Cardano, Anna. Like, that is such a significant piece. This is Bloomberg, guys. This is not like Crypto Daily or ProCoin News, another trusted source for information, right? This is Bloomberg. Have you seen this information, Jeff? This is absolutely insane.
I have not. And again, this is the kind of stuff like, this is why you need to have a good network, because they bring things to you. Cardano, Anna, thank you for sharing this. And I hadn't seen this one yet, but I'm going to probably dig into this.
I sent it to you an hour and a half ago. That's why it's right there.
Doesn't mean I've read it. You know, like there's
fair enough. Okay. Like, it's on your screen because I sent it to you.
Everybody, we assume each other, like, I know you saw that video. Like, no, I haven't seen that video because I'm not. No, it's just, I watch people see me watching videos, and it's kind of crazy because I often play them way faster than they should be played, just so I can consume the information and content faster. It's the only way I can do it. So, like, I watch some videos like almost double speed. So.
And what's the price of Bitcoin right now? Below 20 grand. Thank you, Phil. I love it when people give me updates in the chat on the price of Bitcoin, because then I don't have to look at my watch.
All right. Let's see. Hopefully I'm not kind of experiencing bandwidth issues, but okay. Other questions here. Let's see. Another Veritasium. We always get a Veritasium question. So I own Veritasium since IPO. I hear something is in the works to make it a very desirable token, what has not been confiscated by the SEC. Patrick, am I coming in clear? Am I good?
Yeah, you're coming clear. I can hear you.
Okay. Just wanted to double check. Okay. I've taken a step back because I've been so busy with the event. I took a step back from being involved in the DAO, but I am hearing consistently that Veritasium is pushing forward to try and enforce this patent. I don't know what agreements they're working on. I don't know if there's litigation involved or not. I don't know that amount, but I would say Reggie has IP that has a lot of value that proves that he owns, like, he created the EVM, the Ethereum Value
Virtual Machine.
Thank you, Ethereum Virtual Machine. So that's basically the engine behind all these DeFi platforms. He invented DeFi before it was even called DeFi. He tokenized silver and gold before other companies did it. So he was very, very early because he saw something in the white paper of Bitcoin that a lot of people didn't see early on, and it worried a lot of people. So they're like, regardless, he's got IP, he's got the patents now. He's got one from Japan, one from the US. They're going to be enforceable through litigation or partnerships or whatever. So they have value. How it plays out, I don't know how it's going to play out or when or how. I know the dollar is going to die. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I do know that Veritasium has value because of that. They didn't go IPO. They went ICO, which was part of the concern the SEC had. But Veritasium, when they were first created, they have value. We just got to see how it materializes to the token yet. We haven't seen that yet. And as far as the tokens, there's about a little over 2% that the SEC did not confiscate.
And we already know that it doesn't really matter what they confiscated because Reggie said, I'm going to burn them anyways. So they hold nothing, basically, is what they hold.
If you go on my channel and search Veritasium, or look at my videos from Veritasium, I did one that actually Reggie did tweet out before I was even on the DAO, which kind of said, did simple math, like, here's the peak of Veritasium of a couple $100, and they just reduced the population from that fifth by 98%. So basically making every token now worth 50 times more if it ever gets back to the peak. So you just do the math and you can see the potential of the value of the Veritasium token if it plays out as it could, and we don't know when, but we could. But then again, if Veritasium gets to be equal to a Bitcoin, as Cliff High once said, the question is, well, that's the real value, because I would value tokens versus sats way more important than against dollars.
That's correct.
And again, it's Veritasium is a great. It's asymmetric play because it's fractions of a Bitcoin now, and if it gets even close to a Bitcoin, the upside again is so high compared to the downside. It's also very hard to obtain. Let's see. I'll finish this thought. The holders, 2.5, it's usually 2.15, but close enough. may be used for new SEC approved dealing with DeFi since Reggie has a DeFi patent. Yeah, exactly. So we have to see how that. I know that Reggie and the SEC is a dirty word to Reggie. He does not want to work with them. So I don't know how that's going to play out. It may be a different partnership. Who knows?
Dude, I've been saying it for a long time, for a year now. There's only one way forward for Reggie. No one is going to hand him over money and say, yeah, you're right. I'm going to be the first of 18,000 projects to admit you're right. No, they are going to wait for litigation. Reggie is not going anywhere until litigation happens. And I'm not saying that it won't. I am saying that I believe it will happen because I kind of favor Uncle Cliff. I think that he's right. And it's just a matter of time. So I'm happy to hold Veritasium. But the reality is he does own the patents, not just in the US, right? But in other really significant financial institutions around the world. They recognize it.
Yeah. Yep. And those are big financial markets to the big four. So, all right, we'll move off that topic and let's see. Let's go back to our two shot here. What's a good percentage for a healthy crypto portfolio? We kind of talked about that. We kind of like what George says of 50% Bitcoin, 25% altcoins that you like, 25% cash. It's not financial advice. That's one way to play it. If you like altcoins more than Bitcoin, you can trade them back and forth and work on your own percentages. And you can also figure out what cash equivalents you want. So that's just a generic recipe. And that's the kind of things that we're talking about economic preppers, how to get exposure to other assets that will grow if you think the dollar is going to go down. Just like if you think Ethereum is going to crash this week, these are the 10 altcoins most likely to step in and fill the void. That's the way. Like if you have to build a story that fits your narrative. But if your narrative says the dollar is crap, I want to be in something else, then building your portfolio of crypto, some precious metals, and maybe some income producing real estate as well at the right time. Probably not a great time to buy real estate now, but those are the kind of things you need to be weighing in and learn. You'll learn when you come down to Dallas on October 8th. So let's see what other questions we got. Let's see. I did not see Dick Algar's remote view for Ethereum, but I'd like to hear about that. That's another question. 2 days. Oh, he says it was 2 days ago. Okay. So I'll have to check with that. Okay. Looking for more questions here. Robert Kiyosaki is predicting $20 silver for 3 to 5 years, then $100 to $500 silver. That could very well be. I could see that. And Cliff High originally said you'll see a world that has $600 silver in it, but you're not going to enjoy being in that world. He's kind of changed that position a little bit, but again, prices of things in dollars, like price of an object is just a ratio of that object to whatever you're pricing it in. So if I say that this silver is worth $20, that's different than saying this silver is worth, a side of beef. It's like that. Now it's like, oh, it's worth way more beef because the beef is back to dollars. But if the dollars start to go away, or we start to value things in different measurements, or grams of silver, ounces of silver, or gold, like with constitutional money, we start going back to that, then that dollar system, it changes. The value of prices in dollars don't mean as much. Also, if CBDCs come out and they start pricing things in different, let's say that a gallon of gas gets to $10 a gallon, but it's one CBDC per gallon. So that could very well be as well, because there's no guarantee that if and when they introduce the CBDC, well, it's not if, just when, what the price will be. It may not be 1-to-1. Stop thinking that's going to be 1-to-1. It may not be that. They will incentivize you to get on that CBDC train as fast as possible.
Yeah, it might cost 5 regular dollars, and it might cost you 1 CBD dollar. So therefore, they're going to incentivize you. And they might even say, hey, turn in your regular dollars and we'll give you X number of CBDs. They might even, there's so many things they could do. But I am telling you guys here, you heard it here, listen to me now. CBDCs are nothing but handouts, and they will lead to handcuffs.
Yeah. And I think that, the CBDC, we've talked, we did, you were fortunate enough to meet Ninja for the first time out in Spokane at the Silver Symposium. You did a video with him on XRP, and we talked about XRP. And there was a great guy, a great channel called Moon Lambo, who basically said, guys, XRP is not going to be used for the Fed down system, because XRP, the Ripple net, is meant to go between one currency and another. So why would you use it within the United States? You're not changing currencies. I'm here to tell you there's going to be two currencies at once. There's going to be the CBDC dollar and there's going to be the fiat dollar. And eventually there may be a constitutional dollar too. There may be three going at once, but I know for now, absolutely for sure, there's going to be these and there's going to be CBDCs, and they may not be equivalent, but they're going to be operating at the same time. And they're going to be pushing the new Coke version of the dollar that's going right down your throat, whether you like it or not. And they're going to say like, hey, we'll airdrop you some if you behave a certain way, or if you get to our app and you do certain things. If you conform to the government will take care of you, just like they kind of have for some people in the last couple of years, if not more. So
it's like the opposite of Bitcoin. It's the exact opposite of Bitcoin. Something you can control, something that you can print. Like, that is not Bitcoin. You can make a whole lot more Bitcoin. Nope, you cannot. Only for like, well, I think they're going to run out, like Bitcoin stops being mined in what, 2130 something, right?
2140, yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's like another 100 and something years, guys, but 110 years. But at the end of the day, you're looking at this saying Bitcoin is not going to be the same tool that a CBDC is, because you can't make more Bitcoin. You can't tell me, no, you're not allowed to send Bitcoin. Bitcoin is immutable. It doesn't discriminate. CBDC is, hey, guess what? You spent $600 of gas this month. You're stocking up on gas. We're not going to let you buy any more gas this month. You're limited at 400. Well, what about if I got to get to work? Sorry, 400. What if you're a contractor and you need a big truck and you have to use heavy gear? Sorry, you don't get to work that much. Oh, you eat too much McDonald's. Oh, we're having a beef shortage. You can't have burgers. You can only have vegan-based, whatever, plant-based. Don't even get me started. I need protein.
Well, taking it back to the dollar and why it's garbage, this is, I won't say it, but this is the worst crap coin of all time. If you read the white paper on the dollar and say, hey, we can print more of it anytime we want. We talked about the misinformation about Shiba and burning that, but this is what really needs to be burned. They need to burn these dollars because the population needs. No one actually knows how many of these are. They think there are. They don't. They think there's a certain amount. Like they count M1, M2. They give. For them, the financial system is so complicated because they don't want you to understand it. Like they have no idea how many of these things are really there. Just like they really don't know how many ounces of gold or silver exactly there are. But we know how many Bitcoin there's ever going to be.
And the International Bank is saying that too, right to your face. They're actually saying that they're going to release CBDCs. Not, you know why? He says because it's a more controllable way. They don't know where the dollars are. They don't know where the peso is going. That's what they're saying. They don't know where someone's spending their 1,000 pesos. They want to know.
That they hook you. They incentivize you. Like the first one is free. Like the first sample is free. Just like the story I did today with like the thermostats, right? Hey, we'll give you $100 and a free MasterCard and $25 a year if we have a programmable remotely controlled thermostat. Well, in Colorado, you just had your air conditioning pegged up to like 77 degrees and you had no control over it.
I just bought 20 thermostats, dude. 20 of them. I found them. They were so cheap, just the basic old school ones. They were like $7. And I'm like, I'm going to keep thermostats because none of my neighbors are going to be hot or cold. They don't need internet.
I think it's around here somewhere, but I think I have, I know I used to have like an analog phone just because that was you always want to have one analog phone because if your phone's based on, well, first off, it's a wireless system now, but if you have a phone that you could plug into a jack, that would always work because it was analog. You didn't have to worry about, the cable or the internet being out. But that's the kind of things like, maybe having an old thermostat laying around, not a bad idea. We're almost out of time, but I am going to answer this one last question. I want to thank everybody for stopping by. And yes, I agree. I see all the comments about the CBDs being really bad news, but let me answer this last question. I want to thank the audience for being here tonight. Favorite layer ones after Bitcoin. Well, obviously we like Litecoin and Digibyte because they're kind of in the same family, but I'm not a big fan of Ethereum, but I'm a bigger fan because Ethereum was the first with smart contracts. But there's a reason that Charles Hoskinson went on to make Cardano and left that project. There's a reason that Gavin Wood left Ethereum and created Polkadot. I mean, there are reasons for. So you have Polkadot, you have Cardano, you have Zilliqa, you have Theta, you have Atom or Cosmos, you have Matic. I'm going off of memory. I'm trying to remember. I don't like Solana because it's decentralized. What else? What Divi's got its own blockchain, but it's not as big yet. I think anything in the top 100 with their own layer ones, I think I rattled off a good number of them.
like
Veritasium. Avalanche is another good one too. Yeah,
VeChain. Oh, VeChain
VeChain.
in the top 100 maybe. There's some good blockchains. Look for things with utility, guys. That's what it really comes down to.
Use case, and we talk about that. And if you're members of our Patreon, and we'll talk about that at Economic Preppers, you join our Patreon and you talk to us, and we're going to provide you with articles and content, and we'll update you because things change. VeChain's story is not the story it was a few years ago. VeChain was basically China-based, and they did a lot of their partnerships over there. They've moved to Europe. They've done a lot of new things. They got their own blockchain, and they're also working with the UFC. It's got a lot of crypto visibility. I think VeChain is making major moves, and not many people. It's under a penny. Not many people are even looking at it, but it is a great. And I think it's also you could stake it too, and you can get more. You can get more from.
Yeah,
Tezos is another good project too. We should talk about. They have a good staking. So. But VeThor, yeah, for VeChain, and you can obviously, if you like supply chain coins, you can hedge that with another coin I covered in Altcoinopoly, which was Origin Trail, and that's also very cheap. So both those are the top two use case for supply chain tracking, which I think is going to be huge going forward. But these are the kind of things.
For like keeping up on news, though, the easiest way, like for us, if you're in our Telegram, you already know that you pretty much hear news right away when it happens. And you can ask us anything, anytime on our Patreon. We have a Telegram chat for it. So that's probably one of the best ways to hear news, because on top of that, you have a lot of sharp minds in there, and iron sharpens iron. So for us, I think that's where I like to rely on my news, is just your close network of your close community of people. Because if you want to wait for news to come out, you're going to hear a lot of fake news too. So I think the quality of your news is also as important as where you're getting it from. That's what I would say. Just be careful. Do what I like to do. Go type in CNN, and whatever that says, it's the opposite.
And really, guys, we really appreciate everybody stopping by. We hope to see you down in Dallas at the event. Again, one last time for tonight. The tickets are the rooms we can only hold the rooms for a few more days. So please go get your tickets now. Get your rooms booked. We'd love to see you there. I understand some people are concerned about travel, but I'm telling you, it's just going to be fine. They're not going to huge disruption.
And if you are worried about that, there is an option for I think it's $10. You can have insurance for it, but I can guarantee you that they already told me today the rooms are booked. So there's no ability. If you tried to book a room right now, unless you book through our link, you won't get a room.
That's right. That's right. So, and it's a great price. So great price all around for it. And but I think we covered it really well tonight, Patrick. Thank you as well. Thanks everybody for our audience for being here. So Patrick, thanks a lot. And with all that said, I'm going to try and get it right this time. I'll close the door of the bureau, say follow leader one more time, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.